I was humiliated by my husband on our anniversary dinner, but what happened later changed my life. Vanessa smoothed the fabric of her dress nervously as she caught a fleeting glimpse of the ornate clock hanging above the restaurant's entrance. The seconds ticked down to the moment she had been anticipating for weeks, her 10th wedding anniversary with Ethan. She had meticulously planned every detail of this evening, wanting it to be perfect, a celebration of 10 years of shared dreams, laughter, and love. Yet beneath her poised exterior, a storm of insecurities and lingering doubts churned silently, fed by years of subtle neglect and the quiet erosion of their once unshakable bond. The restaurant buzzed softly with murmurs and the clinking of glasses, its lavish chandeliers casting a warm glow over the polished mahogany tables. Soft jazz floated through the air, blending with the murmur of other patrons enjoying their own celebrations. Vanessa scanned the room, searching for Ethan's familiar face, hoping for a sign that he was as excited as she was. Her breath caught when she finally spotted him, leaning casually against the bar, a half-smile playing across his lips. Even after all this time, his presence filled her with a flicker of hope. But as he approached the table where she waited, something shifted. The warmth she expected to find in his eyes was replaced by a colder, sharper look, a look she hadn't seen before. Ethan's usual charm was missing. He seemed distant, even detached. A pit settled deep in Vanessa's stomach, but she brushed it aside, telling herself she must be imagining things. The waiter arrived with their first course, a delicate plate of seared scallops adorned with fresh herbs. They clinked glasses, and Ethan muttered a brief happy anniversary before looming over her, his eyes scanning the room in a way that made Vanessa suddenly feel painfully exposed. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan spoke, his voice clear and louder than she'd anticipated, cutting through the ambient noise like a shard of glass. "You know, it's funny. 10 years, and somehow you still can't seem to manage your time. I can't believe you forgot our vow renewal speech. We agreed it was important, yet you came unprepared, as usual." Vanessa froze. Her pulse thundered in her ears as heads turned, curious or perhaps judgmental, toward their table. Ethan's words echoed unforgivingly, the supposed failure hanging heavy in the air. She felt the heat creep up her neck, a flush of humiliation burning her cheeks. "I didn't forget," she stammered softly, but the confidence in her voice faltered. I wanted it to be perfect." Ethan's lips twisted in a bitter smile. "Perfect? That's not the impression you give. 10 years, Vanessa. Time enough to prove you're reliable. Yet you drop the ball when it counts." Whispers surrounded them now, some sympathetic, others tinged with judgment. Vanessa wanted to disappear, to shrink beneath the table where no one could see her crumbling defenses. The eyes of strangers felt like knives, dissecting her very worth. She forced herself to meet Ethan's gaze, searching for even a shred of the man she once loved, but found only disdain. The words cut deeper than she expected. 10 years of partnership, of faith, unraveling in a single moment of public scorn. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, blurring the shimmering candlelight. Without another word, Vanessa stood abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. With trembling hands, she gathered her clutch and slipped past the murmuring crowd, each step away from the table draining her of strength. Outside, the cool night air hit her like a slap. She pressed her fingers against her mouth, stifling a sob she couldn't hold back any longer. The world she had built on love and mutual respect felt like shattered glass beneath her feet. How had it come to this? Was this humiliation her reality? Could the woman who had once believed in forever now only believe in the painful silence of abandonment? As she walked away from the restaurant, the glimmer of hope that had carried her through the years dimmed, but somewhere beneath the wreckage of her heart, a stubborn flicker of resolve began to stir. Would she let this moment define her? Or was there a way to reclaim the dignity stripped from her this night? In that quiet battle between despair and strength, Vanessa found herself at the crossroads of her life. What would she choose? Leave a comment below if you've ever faced a moment when everything you believed in was challenged. How did you find the courage to move forward? Days folded into nights, and the sharp sting of that evening remained lodged deep inside Vanessa's heart like an unwelcome guest who refused to leave. She tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, but every passing moment reminded her of the public humiliation she'd endured, the whispered glances from acquaintances, and, most piercingly, Ethan's cold, accusatory words. At home, the quiet was suffocating, a stark contrast to the grand promises they'd once made. Each empty room echoed memories of a love now weighed down by bitterness. Vanessa found herself retreating inward, wrestling with questions that gnawed relentlessly. Was she truly the failure Ethan had declared? Had she let go of her dreams and identity, losing herself in attempts to be perfect by someone else's standards? The self-doubt clawed at her every evening, poisoning her thoughts and drowning out the confident woman she once recognized in the mirror. At work, Vanessa tried to focus on her graphic design projects, but her creativity felt stifled, shackled by the cloud of despair hanging over her. The office buzzed with deadline pressures and casual chatter, yet Vanessa felt isolated, like she was observing life from behind a glass wall. Her colleagues noticed a change, the sparkle in her eyes dulled, her smiles becoming forced. It was during this fragile state that her close friend, Mia, invited her for coffee one afternoon. Mia's small apartment was an oasis of warmth sprinkled with artwork and potted plants, a stark contrast to the cold silence Vanessa endured at home. Over mugs softly steaming with chamomile tea, Mia looked at Vanessa with a frankness that was both comforting and necessary. "Vanessa, you're better than this," Mia said softly, brushing a stray strand of hair from her friend's face. "You've let Ethan's words define you, but they don't tell the whole story. You're still the person who used to dream with me about starting her own design line, remember? What happened to that woman?" Vanessa hesitated, the ache resurfacing as she recalled the lost dreams buried beneath years of compromise and the struggle to meet Ethan's expectations. "I don't even know where to start anymore," she whispered. He made me feel like I'm worthless. That everything I am doesn't matter." A tear slipped down her cheek as she revealed the raw vulnerability simmering beneath her composed exterior. Mia reached for her hand, squeezing it firmly. "Then maybe it's time to rediscover yourself. Not to prove to Ethan, but for you. What if you took that talent you've always had, your eye for design, your passion for sustainability, and made it your own? You could start small, something just for you." The idea ignited a spark, faint but persistent. Vanessa hadn't realized how much she'd buried her aspirations to conform to Ethan's image of success. The thought of reclaiming that part of her life stirred something fierce within her, a gathering of strength, of self-respect waiting to be awakened. Encouraged by Mia's unwavering support, Vanessa began to research sustainable fashion, a field she had admired from afar but never dared approach. She spent late nights sketching clothing pieces that emphasized natural fabrics and ethical production values. The design process became a sanctuary where she could pour her frustrations and dreams into something tangible. However, the road was far from easy. Telling Ethan about her plans was met with derision. "Fashion? You? That's a hobby, not a career. You'll never make it serious," he sneered during their rare confrontations. His words, meant to discourage, instead fueled Vanessa's determination. If anything, she realized that the man who had humiliated her feared what she could become. Old friends and acquaintances, who had once praised her as Ethan's devoted wife, began to distance themselves when she spoke about her ambitions. The social circles that had once felt like home now felt like cages constructed by doubt and resentment. Yet, Vanessa pressed on, silencing the internal critic that echoed Ethan's harsh judgments. She secured a modest workspace in a shared studio, where the hum of sewing machines and the scent of fabric filled the air. Meeting other creators and entrepreneurs reminded Vanessa of the vibrant, passionate world beyond her former life. Each day was a battle against fear, but with every completed design, confidence blossomed. Vanessa's journey was a delicate dance between hope and hardship, punctuated by moments of self-doubt and quiet victories. She wrestled with the ghosts of humiliation, gradually transforming pain into purpose. As she pieced together the first samples of her sustainable collection, a question blossomed in her heart. Could she not only survive this upheaval but truly thrive? Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads, wondering if failure was the end or the beginning of something new? Share your thoughts below. Sometimes, other stories can light the path when our own way feels uncertain. The months that followed were some of the most challenging Vanessa had ever faced. Launching a new venture was a steep climb, with obstacles rising like jagged peaks threatening to halt her ascent. Every day tested her resolve, from navigating the complexities of sustainable sourcing to the relentless marketing demands required to get her fledgling brand noticed. Vanessa learned to juggle roles she had never imagined: designer, manager, negotiator, and sometimes even the harbinger of bad news. Yet through it all, she held on to a single guiding star: her desire to rebuild a life on her own terms, forged from strength and integrity. Her efforts soon bore small but meaningful fruit. The first collection of ecological clothing she created, modest in size but rich in purpose, caught the attention of a local boutique willing to take a chance on her designs. The boutique's owner praised the quality and craftsmanship, but there was a cautious optimism shadowed by skepticism from others in her circle. Yet, each positive step fueled Vanessa's fire. Ethan, however, remained a looming shadow. His dismissive comments didn't abate; on the contrary, they grew more pointed as rumors of Vanessa's boutique successes started whispered conversations among friends and family. "She's wasting time," he'd say bitterly when friends inquired. "This won't last." But sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, there was a flicker of unease in his eyes, a subtle acknowledgement that perhaps Vanessa's world was shifting beyond his control. Despite the mounting pressures, Vanessa refused to crumble. She networked tirelessly, attending environmental forums and fashion expos, determined to make her voice heard in an industry where sustainable practices were still fighting for recognition. She learned to pitch her vision convincingly, to stand tall in rooms where she was often the only woman and an even rarer newcomer. Then came the invitation that marked a turning point. A major annual fashion trade fair dedicated to ethical and sustainable brands extended an offer for Vanessa to present her collection. It was a chance to showcase her work to a wider audience: critics, buyers, and influential industry leaders. The significance was immense. This event could make or break her burgeoning company. Preparation consumed Vanessa's days and nights. Each garment was meticulously crafted, every fabric choice deliberate. Her team, small but fiercely devoted, hovered around her like protective guardians. Doubts crept in during quiet moments. Was she truly ready? Could she withstand yet another crushing failure? But the memory of that horrid anniversary dinner, the humiliation seared into her soul, became the iron framework holding her upright. The day of the fair arrived with a swell of anticipation and nerves. Vanessa took a deep breath as she stepped onto the bustling showroom floor, surrounded by towering displays and the hum of eager conversations. Her booth, adorned with lush greenery and earth-tone designs, quickly drew curious visitors. As they admired the textures and craftsmanship, Vanessa shared the story behind her brand: not just garments but a mission, a deep commitment to sustainability born from personal transformation. Amid the crowd, a familiar figure appeared: Ethan. His sudden presence sent a shiver through Vanessa, a strange mix of apprehension and defiance coursing through her veins. He stood at the edge of the booth, arms crossed, eyes flickering with a complex swirl of emotions, pride tangled with envy and regret. Time seemed to stall as their gazes locked. Ethan's lips twitched, as if trying to form the words he never dared speak before. Vanessa sensed a shift in the air, a silent challenge brewing between the past and the present. Without hesitation, Vanessa addressed the growing audience, her voice steady and imbued with newfound confidence. She spoke of the journey from humiliation to empowerment, the battles fought to reclaim her dignity through passion and perseverance. Her words resonated, drawing nods and spontaneous applause. This was her moment, not just to prove herself to Ethan or anyone else, but to honor the woman she had become. The revelation in her narrative was palpable. the humiliation that had once threatened to shatter her was the very catalyst for her remarkable rebirth. Ethan stood silently, forced to confront the reality that the woman he had once demeaned now radiated strength and success beyond his reach. As the crowd dispersed, murmurs of admiration mixed with disbelief, Vanessa's mind raced. This confrontation was far from over, yet she held the upper hand. The question hung between them: would Ethan acknowledge the truth and his own failings, or retreat into denial? Have you ever faced an unexpected reckoning that changed everything you thought you knew? Reflect on how confrontation can be a catalyst for truth and growth. Feel free to share your experiences. Sometimes the hardest truths bring the greatest clarity. The relentless passage of months revealed a path fraught with adversity and revelation for Vanessa, testing the very depths of her resolve. Every day presented a new challenge, a puzzle demanding creativity, patience, and courage she didn't know she possessed. The small spark ignited by her friends' encouragement had grown into a fierce blaze of determination, fueled by late nights spent sketching, negotiating with wary suppliers, and the humbling dance of building a brand from the ground up. Vanessa immersed herself in the intricate world of sustainable fashion, learning the language of fabrics, supply chains, and ethics. She grappled with doubts, not just from external sources but the persistent echo of Ethan's harsh judgment reverberating in her mind. His voice, once looming and dismissive, had tried to tether her to feelings of inadequacy, yet now it served as a catalyst pushing her beyond comfort zones she had never thought possible to leave. Criticism arrived in many guises: skeptical acquaintances, chilly stares from old friends who had aligned themselves with Ethan's version of reality. When Vanessa announced the launch of her own boutique collection of eco-friendly apparel, whispers mocked her audacity. A wife playing dress-up, some implied, while others questioned the viability of her vision. Yet Vanessa pressed on. Balancing the toll of emotional upheaval with the fierce excitement of creation, she carved out a modest studio space, transforming it into a crucible where ideas blossomed and her confidence slowly rebuilt itself. The hum of the sewing machine became a metronome marking progress, each stitch a silent rebellion against the humiliation she had suffered. Then came the invitation that would change everything. A prestigious fashion expo devoted to sustainability extended an offer to Vanessa, a chance to showcase her collection among some of the most promising innovators in the industry. The opportunity was exhilarating but intimidating, the stakes high enough to rattle any entrepreneur, let alone one still nursing fresh wounds. During the weeks leading up to the event, Vanessa worked feverishly. She refined each design with painstaking care, selected fabrics that told stories of environmental stewardship, and prepared to stand beneath the spotlight she'd once feared. Alongside her burgeoning team, united by shared passion and mutual respect, Vanessa rehearsed her presentation, determined to convey her story not as a mere product pitch but as a testament to resilience and purpose. On the day of the expo, an electric energy pulsed throughout the venue. Bright lights, polished floors, and a sea of faces eager to witness new ideas greeted Vanessa as she arranged her display. Lush greenery complemented the earth-toned garments, inviting visitors to explore the textures, the craftsmanship, and the ideals woven into each thread. To her surprise, and neither subtle nor expected, Ethan arrived. His presence loomed at the perimeter of the gathering crowd like a spy in a foreign land. Vanessa's heart skipped, a mix of unease and fierce resolve tightening in her chest. His eyes briefly locked onto hers, a storm of unspoken words flickering behind the surface, a blend of lingering pride, envy, and something else harder to decipher. Unfazed, Vanessa stepped forward. Addressing her audience, she shared the arduous journey that led her here, the pain of betrayal and humiliation, the awakening of an inner strength, and the rebirth that comes from embracing one's true self. Her voice carried conviction, resonating beyond the walls of the expo as listeners nodded, drawn to the honesty and courage radiating from her. For a moment, time seemed to suspend. Ethan's carefully constructed facade chipped away as he witnessed the woman he had once belittled now standing tall, radiant and triumphant. The crowd's applause was not just for the garments on display but a celebration of Vanessa herself, the woman who dared to rise from the shards of a shattered past and forge a new identity forged by her own hand. As the day waned, Vanessa knew the confrontation with Ethan had shifted something fundamental. The power dynamics that had long defined their relationship had suddenly inverted, opening the door for acknowledgement, or perhaps the long-awaited reckoning. She had transformed her pain into power, but the true test would be the choices that followed. Have you ever experienced a moment where your personal triumph challenged the perceptions of those who once doubted you? Consider how your victories might redefine relationships and alter narratives. Sharing your story might inspire others wrestling with similar journeys.